everyone, in this video you can watch me make two geoda paintings in warm and cold colors. I'm going to use acrylics and also resin, and of course I'm going to use some nice glitters and real crystals. So I already started with a base layer on my two canvases, and my canvases are 30 centimeters. And the mix that I use for my acrylic paints is Artist Junior glue and water to the right consistency. And I like a honey-like consistency. And I also added a little bit of the polyurethane gloss varnish. And I'm using the gloss varnish from Vallejo. I'm spreading my base layer onto my canvases, and this color is from Winsor and Newton. It's the Buff Titanium. And what I mentioned, I'm going to use cold colors, so like blue, white, those colors. And I'm going to use warm colors, and those colors are burnt cyano and a nice warm yellow. So the top part will be cold and the bottom part of my canvases will be warm. And I'm going to connect these two canvases. I think it's called a diptych. I'm not sure. So I'm spreading my base layer and I'm going to use the ribbon pour. So I already added all the colors into my paper cup. There you can see it. I'm starting with the warm colors, with a nice burnt sienna in it, also a blue. This is the process blue from Winsor and Newton. And I'm using from Deco Art the color Ming, a nice metallic color. And the top part are going to be cold colors. So I added to these colors the titanium white and a nice light blue color. And I mixed that blue color with the process blue and the titanium white. So I call this a ribbon pour, but maybe it's called different now at the moment. I don't know. But in the past, it was a ribbon pour. There you can see the titanium white. So all the supplies I use in this video you can find at the end of the video, but also in the description with a link to the website. So if you're curious, please check out the description box. Now I'm trying to create a nice design. Yeah, it drips on my other painting, but that doesn't matter because I also need to stretch those paints, that I don't have too much paint on my canvas, because if it dries then I get cracks and I don't want that. Yeah, so again, the mix that I use is a Artist Junior glue. It's a kind of PVA glue, and I added water to a honey-like consistency. I like that. And I also added a polyurethane gloss varnish, only a little bit. And you can already see the difference between the warm colors and the cold colors. The bottom part are the cold colors and the top part the warm colors. So I'm done with the ribbon pour, and I will show you a close-up, then you can see the colors much better. So this is a close-up right after pouring. There you can see the nice burnt sienna color and the blue, the titanium white. I'm very pleased how it looks. Also some nice effects. That's great. A little bit closer. And the sparkle is from the Deco Art Metallics, the color Mink. So this will be the base layer for my two geoda paintings, because I'm going to add some glitter lines and also resin, of course, what I mentioned. And I'm going to use some acrylic markers and the Pebeo outliners. So I'm not done yet. So now I'm going to start with the Posca acrylic markers in the color white. There you can see it. I'm going to use different kinds of markers, outliners. I'm also going to use some holographic lines. But I'm starting with white. And now I'm adding a silver line. And I'm trying to match the colors. So in the cold area, I'm going to use white and silver. There you can see it. But in the warm colors, I'm going to use gold, also white, but no silver. And also different thicknesses of the lines, because this one is a lot thinner than the first one I used. And I'm trying to define some areas that I like. Yeah, and it dried. I let it dry for a few days, and then I add the lines. And before I'm going to add the resin, I let it dry for at least 3 weeks. Then I know for sure that it's totally dry. Now I'm going to use a Pebeo outliner. There you can see it. And this is a silver color. Yeah, I started on these paintings, I think 2 years ago. And then a lot happened. So I never finished it. But yeah, this week I thought they look pretty. So why not finish these two paintings with resin? But you will see that later in this video. Again, a white line. And these markers work very well. I also use them on resin. Then they also look very pretty. Yeah, and before I'm going to add a resin, I also add a resin layer on the back of these canvases. And I always do that because otherwise I have a problem that all the resin will flow to the center, and that's not nice. And if you add a thin layer of resin onto the back of the canvases, then you don't have that problem. Yeah, and I'm going to use ice effect on some parts. I already did some parts on the top part. There you can see it. You can. It's very white, and you can make some nice structure with it. So I'm using my palette knife to add in some places this structure paste. But I'm going to add more structure. But yeah, that's when I also add the resin. Adding a little bit more, creating some nice effects in this paste. There you can see it. I'm using a Q-tip because I want it to resemble the stone of a real crystal. There you can see it. I'm also going to use some holographic lines, and I'm using the Deco foil. It's a glue marker. I'm showing you what kind of foil it is. Very nice. And this one I'm going to use in the cold area, so the bottom part. That's the glue marker. I'm deciding where I want to have this holographic line. And you need to let this dry for about 15 minutes, and then you can add the foil on top of it and it will stick to the glue. And for lines, is this marker very good? You can also buy this glue in a jar and then you need to add it with a brush, but they also have it in a marker. There you can see it, pressing it onto the glue, and then the foil will stick to it. And then I have a nice holographic line. Very easy. I'm showing you up close how it looks. Yeah, very, very pretty. Now I'm starting on the warm area, so the warm colors. Again, a white line. Yeah, I'm showing you as much as possible of this process. And if you still have questions, please place a comment below this video. I'm happy to answer your questions. And now I'm using the PBO outliner in the color gold. There you can see it. I've used these outliners also in a silicone mold. It's also very pretty. Or on top of resin. Now I'm using them on acrylics. Yeah, this takes some time. This is the Krylon gold marker. So I'm using a lot of different markers to add lines. I always find that very pretty, adding a lot of lines. And again, the PBO outliner, but then in the color white, all around the ice effect structure. Yeah, what I mentioned in the beginning, I'm also going to add some real crystals. So these are real, what I'm now putting onto my canvases. I'm using hot glue to stick them onto the canvas. And these are very pretty, these crystals. There you can see it. So I'm making a cluster of pointy crystals. Also on the other canvas. There you can see it. So I'm adding the hot glue on the end of the pointy crystal, and then I'm sticking it onto my canvas. I think that looks nice. Now I'm adding a little bit of resin onto the beige areas of both canvases. There you can see it. Spreading it with my finger. And I'm using the Art Pro resin from Resin Pro. So you only need a little bit. And then on top, I'm using, yeah, I call it a druzy mix or a crystal mix. It sparkles a lot. And what I use, I can tell you, is a mirror sand, and it's my own. You can find it in my Etsy shop. It's called White Sparks, and I'm also using mirror glass in the color Nature. Both materials you can find in my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. And I'm adding it onto the base area where I just put the resin on. And I also add some mirror glass on top of this mixture. So at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a close-up. Then you can see this mixture much better. And it sparkles a lot. Now you can see it that well. There you can see it. I'm adding mirror glass on top of this, yeah, crystal mix or druzy mix. There you can see it again. Pushing it. Yeah, it needs to resemble the stone, the crystals in the real stone. That's what I would like. Hopefully you don't hear my friend's bulldog. He is snoring again. But yeah, people that know me know that I have a French bulldog and that he's very loud and noisy sometimes. Yeah, I'm also going to add some glitter lines, and for these glitter lines I use the high build resin from Ilagem, and it's a very thick resin, and I added a lot of glitter to it. On the cold side I'm using silver, what you can see now, and on the other side, the warm colors, I'm using a nice gold glitter. Yeah, the high build resin. It's a very thick resin, and if you add the glitter line, it will not spread to the side. So that's nice. It stays the way it is. Yeah, you can see it. A silver glitter line next to the holographic line. Also against the druzy mix or crystal mix. And on the other side, of course, a gold glitter line against the crystal mix. Yeah, I like that. Cold colors and warm colors. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Cold and warm. More glitter lines. Yeah, now I'm going to add a resin layer. There you can see it. I'm using the Art Pro resin. Again, it's a medium viscosity resin. I like that. So what I mentioned in the beginning, I let the painting dry for at least 3 weeks. Then I clean it with a little bit of alcohol. And then, after that, I add a resin. Spreading it with my stirring stick, also on top of the ice effect, but not on the druzy mix. That will stay the way it is. Yeah, and my goal was to have these paintings connected. So, yeah, I think it's called a diptych, but I'm not sure. And I think I succeeded in that. Also resin on the sides. Yeah, and the acrylic colors always look much better if you add resin on top of it or a varnish layer. But in this case, resin. Using my heat gun to make the resin a little bit more liquid, then I can spread it much better, but also to remove some air bubbles. I'm almost done with the resin layer. Then I will let this dry, and after it's dry, then I show you a close up using my torch for the air bubbles. So this is the end result. Paintings are dry. I really like that effect of warm and cold, and the middle part with the druzy mix is very nice. It sparkles a lot. Hopefully you can see that. The nice glitter lines, the ice effect, there you can see it. There's my druzy mix and the real crystals. They are very pretty. A little bit closer there. There you can see the holographic lines. All the other lines that I added. Yeah, I'm very pleased how it looks. So let me know what you think of these two geoda paintings in the comments below this video. I'm very curious what you think of it. And I want to thank you all for watching again. And hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye.